Nigerian Christians being subjected to genocide in their own country.
A Christian is killed every 2 hours in Nigeria.
In the African nation of Nigeria, millions of Christians are persecuted by Islamic terror groups.
"17 people on average a day are being killed for their faith in Nigeria currently."
Yeah, and I think it was it 7,000 over the past 8 months? It was like the deadliest 8-month period in a long time.
Yeah, 7,000 in over 8 months, over probably now. And all of this information is coming from equippingthepersecuted.org. We'll put it up on screen right now. And
we'll put a link to it in the description too.
And with them, they have a news channel that isn't funded by their government. So their government is extremely corrupt. And we'll get into that. Their government isn't doing anything about it at all.
It's horrible, man.
It's horrible.
They're pretty much just standing by and letting it happen.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I have been awakened to this very recently, actually. But in fact, it's been going on for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it needs to be, more people need to know about this, know about what their government is doing. For the matter, I shouldn't say what they're not doing, actually.
Yeah. But even what they're doing as well, because there's obviously some suspicion and apparently some evidence that the government is actually in on it.
Of course. Yeah.
They want this to happen.
And later on in the show, we will be going over, or we're going to have a special guest call in, Pastor Mike Tremblay, on why people are doing this. There's no denying the facts that people are being killed every single day for the faith that me and you both share. That scares me a bit.
Yeah.
I want to know why. What is their motive on why they just feel like they need to kill people because of their faith?
Yeah.
So that'll be later on. We have a few videos for the show that we want to show right now, Show for the show. Let's take a look at this video right here. This is going on in Nigeria right now. Yeah, so that's like, looking at those people run away, they're running away in, I couldn't imagine. I don't think I've ever probably sensed that amount of fear that those people felt that day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's horrifying. Yeah.
So they're running away from a group. What is the exact group?
I think their name, I think there might be multiple groups. I've heard one of them is Boko Haram. That's like one of the biggest ones.
In Fulani.
Fulani, right.
Fulani. Yeah. And those people in the video are literally running away in fear, being obviously massacred.
And the thing is, not a single person in that crowd is armed. So this isn't even a fight.
No.
Right? This isn't a shootout at all. This is just a straight up massacre. These are all unarmed people that are they're literally just firing into a crowd.
Yep. And again, 17 people a day. 17 people a day, and that is just off of murder. So not to mention the country is in total devastation. These people are being, they're starving. They don't have medical aid at all.
Yeah.
And that's just murders alone. So that number would probably, and I don't have the stats for this, but I would imagine, maybe double that every day on people dying of hunger. It could be more. Mm-hmm. It could be more.
And like I said, this is just what we know about. We don't even know the full extent of what's going on there. I'm sure there's a lot of the stuff that gets swept under the rug. But
of course, yeah. There's this same channel, Equipping the Persecuted. So we will possibly get into this more on our caller that comes on the show, but to my understanding, what is happening, this organization, Equipping the Persecuted, they have a alert system where through their sources of media, their intel, that they can kind of predict when these groups are going to come into these villages and towns in do what they do to people, and they've actually called 89%, and I don't know when this was from, but 89% they have called, right? When these people are going to go in and they're going to do these attacks. And not only are they letting the villagers know, the people in the villages, in the towns, in the farms, but they are also letting the government know. Now, what's awful about this is they let the government know, and keep in mind, 89%. So they're pretty accurate here. 89%, and the government doesn't do anything about it until after the attacks.
Yeah, it's insane.
Until after.
I mean, if that's not proof that they're either in on it or they literally just don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know what is. And it's most likely the former. I mean, if you're responsible for upholding the laws in your country and you have a rogue terrorist group that is going to massacre a group of people, I would say that a government that has the resources to intervene, but they don't, it's probably being done deliberately at some level.
Yeah, there's massive corruption going on there. And I really couldn't imagine what's going on. And what's amazing too, in light of it all, like these people are still being bold in their faith.
Yeah.
Like here in America, like we're not getting persecuted for our faith right now. But these people are still being bold in their faith, and that's, to me, is I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know? It's not crazy. It's unbelievable, actually. So there's these groups like Equipping the Persecuted that we wanted to show, and I'm going to pop up their charity on the screen right now. So 100. They have also a coffee company as well, I'm seeing. But yeah, they have a charity that you can donate to, and 100% of the proceeds are going straight to helping these people, to help them get the aid that they need because their government isn't giving them any. And the aid that they give them is after the fact, when everybody's already been worked out.
Right.
And to me, it screams they're in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously.
And I don't have the exact details on it all, but something's going on in Nigeria that I think that everybody needs to be talking about and at least investigating, because to me, we don't know these people, but they have the same faith as us.
Right. And a lot of them feel completely alone. They feel isolated because there are obviously a lot of horrible things going on in the world. You see the horrible things going on in Gaza, in the West Bank. You see things going on in Sudan, really all over the place. There's no shortage of atrocities happening in the world, and it is absolutely tragic. The thing about Nigeria, and I think it's the same for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Sudan, a lot of these areas, especially where there's a high population of Christians, it just seems like nobody's really talking about it. At the very least, there's been more press on it recently,
right.
But it's been going on for a while, and it just seems like nobody really seems to know about this. There's actually a pastor who is in Nigeria who had multiple members of his church slaughtered. And there's a video of him standing. We can roll that video.
Yep.
He's basically standing over a mass grave, talking about like why is nobody helping, pretty much begging for help.
Yep. So this is the clip right here.
United Nations, I know you're watching me. American Senate, you are watching what I'm doing. I'm saying here, special advisor to Trump. Now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria, massacre Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims.
I couldn't imagine what he's going through.
Yeah, I mean you can hear the desperation in his voice too.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's really sad because those people are people he knows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine putting yourself in that. Like, imagine the people that you go to church with.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
sitting in a dugout hole.
Yeah,
to fit a mass amount of people that you know, not because of the crimes you committed, not because of how awful you are, but because of your faith.
Mm-hmm. And people will say it's not because of their faith. I've heard some every now and then. Most people accept that it's because of their faith. There are some people that argue against it, and they say it's because of land or resources, or it's part of an ongoing civil conflict. We hear this type of stuff a lot. Just a lot of people seem to have a disagreement as to what motivates these people and why this is happening. I think it's probably the most common question people ask is why.
Yeah. We're going to find out those answers
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Shine some light on that. In fact, we could probably
I think it'd be a
do
good
that
time
now.
to do that right now.
Mike a call.
This is Pastor Mike Tremblay. He's done a pretty good deal of research on the situation. He's a youth pastor, and I think he'd be able to shed some light on the issue, especially kind of the religious and spiritual motivations behind why exactly they're doing this to these people.
Yeah, because there's got to be a why. Especially usually you don't just kill people for no reason. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know there's crazy people, but organizations are doing this.
Crazy people don't get into organizations and do this
Exactly.
to massive numbers of people.
Exactly. This is different. There's a reason.
And the government usually doesn't protect those people either.
Yes, which is what we're seeing. So we're going to find out here. What's up, man? We're live right now.
What's up, man? Okay, sweet.
Awesome. So we are really interested in finding out why these people are attacking Christians in the way that they're doing, because obviously there has to be a reason. We want to know what groups are doing it, maybe stuff that they're pulling out of their own teachings could be the reason behind all of this.
And just to clarify, we're talking specifically about the one in Nigeria, right?
Yes. What is going on in Nigeria?
Yeah. So this is going to sound offensive, but essentially the problem with what's going on, at least in the Middle East and then the north of Africa, which is creeping down into Central Africa, is you have ideologies that are totally opposed to each other. You have one, the Christian one, which is basically like evangelize and proselytize through loving your neighbor. And then you have another one that says peace, 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 up until they have enough population to exert physical power over everyone else, which is unfortunate because you have one side that doesn't want to fight back with violence, then you have one side that seeks to conquer with violence. And that's why you have a nation where 50% of them is Muslim and the other 50% is Christian. And in that country specifically, it was taught to Christians that you shouldn't be involved in politics because it's sinful, which is really sad because when they left politics, the people who took in were Muslim. And the Muslim people have taken over all levels of government within Nigeria. And it's causing a lot of problems where you have these people that are being called pirates. They're getting called unknown gunmen, when in reality, it is Muslim groups of people that are going into all Christian towns and slaughtering the Christians so that they can take their land and push them out of their country through conquering. But it's based in ideology. It's based in their belief that in order for their faith to fulfill itself, it has to control the whole world. Whereas Christians choose to achieve that through love. In evangelism, the Muslim form of evangelism is not that. It's through conquering. At least that's what we see playing out in Nigeria. So,
Wow. Okay. And to clarify here to anybody who may be listening, in your opinion, this is not everyone.
Yeah,
When you say
of course.
Muslim, this is these groups there, right? Or is that?
No. So and John, this is where the John quotes come in, but the goal of the Muslim faith is to take over the whole world so that everyone would believe in Allah. And the way that they do that is if they're not like the most populous people in a nation, they go in with peace up until the point where they have enough people in positions of power, or maybe in the military, or maybe just in population numbers, and then they take over with force. And really, it's sad because a lot of people are like, well, a majority of the people in the Muslim faith don't think that way. They don't believe that way. That might be true. The problem is when you have the people who are genuine Muslim that live by the Quran and we would call them radical, but in reality, they're just being true to what's actually written. When those people choose to be violent, it doesn't matter if there's people in their group that aren't violent anymore. They're going to get wiped out just as much as the Christians or the non-believers are. And even in the Quran, if you're a Christian or you don't believe in the Muslim faith, then you get put under a special tax. You're a second-class citizen because you're not as prioritized as Muslim citizens. So the end goal of this faith is to take over the whole world through violence.
Yeah,
it starts with peace and turns to violence.
The term for it, I think, is jizya. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's the term.
And that's happening in northern Nigeria, where it's more Muslim because they've already killed most of the Christians and kicked them out and burned their villages and towns.
So what you're saying is this is spiritually motivated.
It's ideologically motivated.
Ideologically, okay.
Do you think there is a spiritual element to it?
Of course. I mean, the Muslim faith was founded on the Prophet Muhammad, who was a psychopath that had visions from angels. And the Bible clearly teaches that if you get a vision from an angel that teaches a different gospel, that you're not to listen to it because it's from Satan, the evil one. And so I do think this whole faith was a deception from Satan to deceive people. And it's led to great violence and evil.
Okay, man. Well, we appreciate you for giving us some insight into what is going on. And
John, if you want to mention those quotes like in the Quran, where it mentions taxing other faiths and Christians specifically, and then the consequences on if they don't pay that tax, I think that would be good for a listener.
To be honest, I'm not super well versed. There are people that study this like way more than I do. I do know one of them. I don't know if it's in the Quran specifically, but I know that Surah 929 is a commonly quoted one, and people always say this is taken out of context. But Muhammad basically says he's been commanded to fight against people who are unbelievers, and impose jizya, basically the special tax, and essentially treat them as second-class citizens. Is kind of the gist of the verse. Now, people, again, they'll say that it's taken out of context. I've even heard some people argue that when he said fight, he didn't mean fight in the literal sense. He just meant like fight for what you believe in, like you should just speak passionately about it. But I don't know how they explain the jizya part when they talks about the special. I mean, that sounds, again, I'm not super well versed in it, but when you look at it, it's like, it seems pretty clear what he's trying to say.
So if someone really wants to look into this, the origin of their faith started in Saudi Arabia and then went through the entire north of Africa and was stopped in Tours, France. And it was stopped by Christians because all of these places like Northern Africa, the Middle East, it was predominantly Christian. And then these Muslims came in and took over through violence with a sword. It was either convert or die. And then those who didn't convert either perished or were taxed. And so we have the historical accounts of saints that have been martyred throughout history. And it wasn't stopped until a bunch of Christians came together and defended their land. So if anyone thinks this like isn't real, they can look up that battle. They can look up the origins of Islam. And then they can look at the UK and what's happening in France right now, where they've brought in a bunch of people who are Muslim and they're taking over the nation. Even in Germany, I was reading this morning, in Germany, they're canceling all of their Christmas events because they don't have enough money to pay for security to stop Islamic terrorists from killing people. Like, why are they killing people? It's not because they're terrorists. It's because they're Muslim and they hate people gathering in the name of Christ for a Christian holiday.
Wow. That is very interesting.
That's an ideology.
Yeah.
So.
And again, it's like, obviously we're not speaking about all Muslims. I know some personally, like there's some of the best people I know.
No, I'm not talking about people.
Yeah, it's just an ideological. Yeah, it's like you do have to look at the ideology and say like, where is this coming from? In Christians, I believe, you can fact check me on this, Christians are the most persecuted group worldwide. Is that right?
I believe
they're
so.
the most persecuted group, and the place where they're most persecuted right now is in Nigeria.
Right. Is it 90%?
It used to be China.
Yeah, was it 90% of Christians that have
yes.
been killed for their faith are in Nigeria?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So it's like you do
hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, so it's like you do have to look at the common denominator and be like, what is the ideology behind this?
I'll give you another one real quick, and this is one actually that I mentioned to you, Jackson. In Indonesia, people can look this up. There was a conflict within the central province of Indonesia in the late 90s. I have friends that I grew up with that were refugees from Indonesia because the country had Muslims going into Christian villages and towns and throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting Christians in their churches. And so these families left Indonesia, came to America under a religious asylum, and I know them. I grew up with them. They were my friends. And there's this entire group of people that doesn't want anything to do with Islam because they watched their entire home get burned down and their families slaughtered. And so in Indonesia right now, you can look it up, it's predominantly Muslim. Not because they evangelized and led people to their Muslim faith, but because they killed the opposition and took it by force. Christians don't do that, but the Muslims do.
Wow, that's no good. But
no, it's wrong.
Yeah. But anyway, man, thank you so much. We appreciate you giving us some insight there.
Yeah, and sorry if it's offensive, but the origin is not good. So
yes,
yeah, hopefully
yes.
it challenges someone.
Absolutely. All right, man.
All right, man.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
You too.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it is unfortunate because the majority of Muslims are very good people overall.
Yes. Yes.
It's just when you see this type of stuff happening, like you mentioned, the UK and France, and we could have a whole separate video on that.
And they have a major problem there right now.
Oh yeah, and the same thing with France,
problem.
same thing with Germany. Like women cannot walk home safely at night, and it's happening all over the place. And the majority, like most of this crime, or at least a vastly disproportionate amount of this crime, is committed by Muslim immigrants. So it's like you have. Again, it's absolutely not a dig on all Muslims. No. I know many Muslims that are very good people. But you do have to look at what the religion teaches. You have to look at the origins of it. You have to look at the history of it, and you got to be like, what does this ideology teach?
Right.
And is this, is this a problem?
And in this instance, we are talking about this because this is what's happening in Nigeria.
Right.
Right? People are being murdered every single day for the same faith that we share. We want to know why.
Right.
Who is the group behind it? And it is, ideology that is causing this to happen. And again, yeah, we could probably outline it. I'm sure that some people will probably take it wrong, but again, this is not an attack on person to person. We're looking at why is this going on? Why is these things happening?
Yeah. And that's kind of, I think Mike kind of hit the nail on the head when he said it's the difference between spreading your faith through love and through evangelism and spreading your faith through violence.
Yes.
I think it's very interesting the difference between Christ and what a lot of other world religions teach. I know Islam in particular is they kind of preach this sort of conversion through conquest type of thing. Christians, on the other hand, oftentimes the biggest explosions of Christianity were during persecution of Christians. I forget the author that said this, but basically is that Christianity has grown the most under the sword. Islam has spread the most by using the sword on others. And
there's a big difference there.
Yeah.
Massive difference.
And when you look at the life of Muhammad, when you look at the teachings, it obviously is something that you can't just overlook. Again, not a dig on the people who follow it. Most of them are very good people. You just have to look at the origins. You have to look at the ideology behind it. And if you see a group of people that's continually committing these acts of violence, what is the motivating factor there? Because this isn't just a coincidence. It doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah. And again, we're not trying to, this is not a person to person thing. We're looking at strictly facts. Why is this going on? I do want to talk about these people are being extremely bold, even in these circumstances. They are still standing on their faith, standing on Christ, because ultimately they know, we're not here very long anyway. And it's it's a total atrocity what's happening to these people. Their lives are being cut short. All the people, you know, like, this is like, seeing these type of stuff, I couldn't imagine, like, it's life shattering forever. Even if you weren't a victim of it, you're a victim by association. And even in that, these people are being extremely bold in their faith, and it's like a testament to, like, wow. There's nothing I can say but wow. We have a video. These are people right now in Nigeria.
We praise your name. Jesus, Lord, to protect us, to guide us, Lord, to see us through, to fight for us, to give us hope in the name of Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
It's incredibly inspirational seeing that.
And at any moment, they could be attacked for what they're doing.
And they don't care.
They don't care. They don't care, man. They're still standing there in a church that has been destroyed. I noticed that the cross was still standing, but
Yeah.
destroyed. Why? And they're still gonna spread the message. To me, that's motivational. And I think in America, we need to be more of that.
Yeah, we could use more of that. I mean, it's crazy. Like, I remember that I was always afraid of sharing my faith. I was always very very cagey about it, afraid of how I'd be judged by other people. And now I see that on the screen, and it's you see this happening in Nigeria, and it's like, what am I complaining about? What am I worried about? Right? Like, there are people that, like you said before, the terrorists could come back at any moment and kill them all. They already did it once. They could do it again. And yet these people are still being bold for their faith. And I think that's like one of the biggest testaments that we can see to what it truly means to live out your faith, and what it truly means to spread the gospel, regardless of what happens to you in this world.
Yes. And do you think that there's any ways that we can be more bold person to person, maybe in our daily lives, to be more like those people?
I would say, honestly, just have spiritual conversations with people you know.
Yeah.
You don't even necessarily have to go to a street corner and evangelize. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I mean, I know people that do that. It's great that people are doing that, but I think a lot of people have this worry that they're going to be seen as weird, which, first of all, it's like, it's kind of ridiculous to be worried about being perceived as like weird or like a religious kook when you have this stuff going on. But also, like, you'd be surprised to see how many friends you have, how many coworkers you have, how many family members you have that actually were totally open and willing to have spiritual conversations, especially in our generation, where people have kind of embraced this nihilistic, like, ideology. So at the end of the day, it's like, you just have to remember that if the world needs Christ, you're doing people a favor by spreading the gospel. There's a lot of propaganda about, like, forcing your religion down people's throats, which is so stupid, because nobody can force another person to believe anything.
That's force.
Yeah, well, that's force. And even then, under the threat of death, they're still standing bold for what they believe in. They are not caving under that force.
Yeah.
But if someone's going to get offended over literally just speaking to them, I mean, that person's, you know what I mean? I wouldn't take that very, obviously somebody who's not willing to have a conversation, don't have a conversation with them, but don't be afraid to get out there and share your faith, because you'd be surprised to see how many people are willing to talk about their faith. I had a coworker who, you would think this guy was just didn't care at all about religion. He was obviously an atheist, or at least an agnostic. He just didn't care at all, right? But I remember we had these, like, deep conversations at work, and then the conversations got deeper and deeper, and we ended up having a lot of conversations about God. And I told him my testimony. I told him a lot of things. And he seemed to, obviously he didn't like come to Christ, but I remember that he kind of seemed to open up to it by the end of the summer working with him. And I was surprised to see how willing he was just to have an open conversation about this. Like, so many people are actually seeking. You'd be surprised to see how many people are out there if you're just willing to take that step and have that first talk with them.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's about, it's planting the seed. Planting the seed. Maybe you water it, maybe somebody else does. Or maybe they pick up their Bible and water it themselves. That's a possibility as well. But here in America, I think that we have it, like, we look at, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not taking that away, but right now we have an abundance of blessings to be living here in America.
Yeah.
Because you look at stuff like this going on in Nigeria, you like Sudan. Look at North Korea.
Oh yeah. You look at the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible what they're doing to those people. It is borderline demonic.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it is almost like child sacrifice on purpose.
Yes, it is. We have that here in America too. But
it's in some form or another.
Yep.
It's in some ways you look at stuff like this and it almost doesn't even seem real because we're so used to a comfortable lifestyle. Like, we're so used to not worrying about if our next door neighbors are going to kill us. Meanwhile, you have people worrying about where their next meal is going to come from. You have people that are attending church in the morning wondering if this is going to be the last Sunday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we don't even think about that. Like we have people, a lot of people in our country that decide to sleep in because they don't feel like going to church. We have people that are like, and I've been guilty of this, especially when I was younger. I'm sure we've all been guilty of this at some point, right? But we have a lot of people in our country where we'd rather just sleep in. The alarm goes off. You got church in a couple hours. You were up late last night. You just kind of roll over and doze off back to sleep and whatever. You'll just hit church next week. Meanwhile, we got people in situations like this that had their entire church destroyed and multiple people killed, and yet they come out again.
And there's well put, man. There's people in Nigeria right now standing in a church that is almost destroyed, praising Jesus, knowing in the back of their minds that a terrorist group at any moment could come down and gun them down simply because of their faith. But here in America, we can't spread our faith to our own family.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Yeah, it really just, it's kind of a wake-up call. Like, don't take what we have for granted. And obviously do everything we can to help those people, and I'm sure we can get into that later.
Yeah.
But I guess to people that are persecuted, I know that we actually have viewers in other countries. And I know there are a lot of countries like Nigeria that maybe it's not as extreme, but they're not friendly to Christians. And they do have to fear for their lives. Yeah. You see it in Sudan. You see it in Egypt, especially Egypt. The Coptic Christians get killed a lot there. You see it in Indonesia. You see it all over the world, pretty much. I actually bookmarked a few verses that I wanted to share, just about suffering for your faith, and whether it's just being bullied and harassed for your faith especially in the U.S. I understand what that's like. I've been through it too. It's not fun. It's obviously nothing compared to what some people go through, but obviously, it's not a pleasant experience. Yeah. You feel isolated. You feel alone. You feel like nobody really gets you.
We got to just stand up and be bold, though.
Yeah, exactly. And it's to be expected.
And keep in mind that we're in America.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, we have to defend the right to be able to do it so that we don't end up like that.
We do. We absolutely have to defend our freedoms here.
And it starts with the conversation between the person who's maybe on the fence about it. There's a lot of people in this country, man, that have never really heard the true message of Jesus Christ.
Right.
I think that especially here in New England, I think that they've really kind of seen the church.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Major difference. Anyway, I want to hear what you have.
Yeah. So this is kind of the idea that persecution is to be expected. And it's not, if you are being persecuted, whether you're physically being attacked or you're just being ostracized for your faith, that is not a reflection on you. That's a reflection on basically the fallen nature of humanity. Jesus says in John 15, 18 through 19, if the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. So this is Jesus explaining to his disciples why they are going to suffer for what they believe. Yeah. And it's just a brutal reality that if you are not of the world and if you are a light in the darkness, you in the darkness are not going to get along very well. Yeah. And you're going to see that. You're going to be confronted with that face to face, but ultimately the light wins, right? Darkness can never really overpower light as long as you keep the light on. Man. And that's really what it comes down to. Yeah. Wow. And I guess to the people that are in serious situations, I'm sure we get a lot of views across all platforms, especially on clips. So I guess to anybody that is watching, where they're from a nation like Nigeria or one of these nations where they genuinely are facing horrific persecution and they are truly suffering for their faith in any capacity. This is in the Gospel of Mark chapter 10. He's basically talking about the cost of discipleship. And Jesus says in verse 29, truly I tell you, Jesus replied, no one who has left home or brothers or sister or mother or father or children or fields for me in the gospel will fail to receive 100 times as much in this present age, homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and fields, along with persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life. So basically it's like what I believe he's saying, at least my interpretation of the verse, is that there is nothing that pretty much nothing you have lost in this world that God cannot give you something better in the life to come. So even if America gets to a point where we become like Nigeria, even if we get to a point where we genuinely are suffering for our faith in the same capacity, even if you are in that position where you are genuinely suffering for your faith, there's nothing in this world that God can't give you back 100 times more, 1,000 times more, infinitely more. There is nothing that this world can offer you, whether that's alleviating pain or giving you some sort of reward that can even be remotely compared to what God has in store for you once you complete that, I guess, finish the race, as Paul said in the book of Timothy. Yeah.
And I wanted to mention too, like, if Jesus was walking the earth right now and he saw what was going on and it happened to be the inverse way, and I'm trying to shed light on this because I want people who maybe are listening that maybe they are Muslim or know people, like, we're not saying person to person here. We're trying to figure out who is doing this to these people and why. It just so happens to be that is the group that is doing it. And like I was alluding to earlier, I think that if Jesus was walking the earth right now today and he saw Christians doing this, that we would be calling this out as much as we possibly can. It just so happens to be that this is who's doing it to the Christians. Yeah.
And this is, again, something I'm going to get a lot of flack for, and I don't really care because it's the truth. I hold everybody accountable. When like, Jesus did not say, I'm going to establish a theocracy and we're going to establish a regime and we're going to kill anybody who disagrees with us. That is not what Jesus said. No. He preached on loving your enemies. So when genocide or human rights atrocities of any kind, regardless of who is doing it, come into play, that is something that Christ is obviously opposed to. And as followers of Christ, we have to be opposed to that as well. Yeah. And just because somebody is on our side, that doesn't give them the pass to be able to do something like that. Whether they're regardless of the religious group, whether they're Christians, even if Christians were committing genocide, I don't think there's any example of that happening in the world. I could be wrong. But if there were a group of Christians that were persecuting, say, Muslims, for example, I would 100% be calling that out.
And those aren't Christians.
Yeah.
Those
To be honest,
Christians.
that is not somebody, they clearly have not read their Bibles.
No.
But like, I'll give you an example. It's very controversial in a lot of evangelical circles, but it's the truth. Israel. There are a lot of evangelicals that believe that they are our greatest ally, that they are always in the right, pretty much, and we have to defend them no matter what. And then they will look at something like Gaza, and they will justify it, and they'll kind of argue semantics like, well, it was Hamas struck first or whatever. And I'm not saying that, like, obviously Hamas did horrible things, but they will look at at Israel carpet bombing cities in the Gaza Strip, and they'll say that's totally morally acceptable.
Yeah.
It's just a reality of war. And
That's a whole separate.
yeah, we can make an entire topic on that. But at the end of the day, just because, and again, I have heard this as well from a lot of evangelicals that will say, well, they're Muslims anyway, so those people are like they won't say it explicitly, but they'll kind of argue that the Palestinians sort of deserve it, or at the very least, they will argue that Israel is the good guy because they must be the good guy. They're our friends, which is also debatable. But they'll say, well, obviously they have to be a good guy. So there's this religious bias, especially talking about the Holy Land, saying that Jesus was in Jerusalem, and it has all the historical sites that we see in the Bible.
By the way, does not give you any certain rights to do what
exactly.
Like Jesus would probably be shaking you by the collar.
Exactly.
Being, what are you doing?
Yeah. But then they'll use
Obviously,
that.
you wouldn't do that, but
yeah, they'll use that as a religious justification because it's okay to kill these people as long as it's our team that's doing the killing, and that is absolutely. First of all,
you're no better than any terrorist group to ever walk the planet, the face of the earth.
First of all, saying that they're our team is very, very debatable. Yeah. But second of all, even if you had people that were totally aligned with you ideologically, it is absolutely morally reprehensible to do something like that. So when you see what's going on in the Gaza Strip, that is absolutely
This is what's going on in Nigeria.
Right.
Right. They're no better. They're no better.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, this is like, again, like this is all craziness. Our world's getting really, really, really crazy. But we can find light in Christ. We can find light in Christ. That's what we have now. That's what we have to lean on. That's what those people lean on every single day, even though they could die for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though they could literally be gunned down in the church that they're praising Jesus in, they're still there doing it.
Yeah.
Dude.
And I feel like to some extent we owe it to those people to be bold for our faith.
Yeah.
Because when you look at that church singing and worshiping, they are putting Christ above their own needs. I would say that is pretty much the ultimate example of putting Christ above their own needs, above their own safety, above their own material wealth. I mean, these people basically have nothing.
Yeah.
And they are putting Christ above it all, and they are crucifying the flesh. At the very least, we can share the gospel with somebody. We can talk to somebody. We can make somewhat of an effort so that those people are not dying in vain.
Well, I think we've done our best to recap what we know at the moment. We're going to keep doing our research, keep following what is going on, and potentially have some people that are way more, well-versed in this on the show. And we are also going to be probably doing this maybe every half week. We'll be putting these out in our normal podcast episodes for people that listen to the show regularly. We're going to be covering what's going on, what we think. Again, we believe, say what we want. What's going on in Nigeria now is terrible, but there is an organization, we have mentioned it before, equipping the persecuted. It'll be up on screen right now. There's going to be links in the description that you can donate to their cause in helping these people get aid that their government is not currently giving them, at least not to the capacity that they should be. I think that's covered all of it. Anyway, Christ is the answer in all of this, and we need, in America, you would put it, well said, we owe it to these people to be bold in our faith and to share the good news to people that may have not have heard it in the right manner.
Yeah.
We owe it to those people in Nigeria right now.